The scope of the report of the Human Rights Council raises significant concerns about its credibility and the feasibility of its findings and recommendations. Hello again, my name is Shabnam Akrami, and this is News in 5. The report attempts to cover a vast area of issues, ranging from Canada's legal and institutional framework to migrant workers, Indigenous people, sex workers, persons deprived of liberty, people of African descent, persons with disability, homelessness, access to justice, housing, healthcare, and much, much more, all within a span of 2 weeks visit. This approach is problematic for several reasons. First of all, unrealistic scope for a 2-week visit. The report's attempt to cover such a wide range of issues in just 2 weeks is inherently unrealistic. Thoroughly assessing and analyzing complex issues like Canada's legal frameworks, the treatment of marginalized groups, and systemic challenges in healthcare, housing, and justice requires extensive research, data collection, interviews, and in-depth analysis, none of which can be reasonably accomplished in such a short time frame. The lack of in-depth analysis. Given the short duration of the visit, the report necessarily lacks the depth and nuance required to make informed assessments and recommendations. The broad, sweeping nature of the recommendations suggests superficial understanding of the issue rather than the result of a thorough and methodical investigation. This lack of depth undermines the validity of the recommendations provided. The over-reliance on generalized information. The report appears to rely heavily on pre-existing information and generalized knowledge rather than conducting a specific, detailed examination of Canada's context. For instance, discussions on Indigenous people, sex workers, and people of African descent seems to repeat well-known issues without offering new insight or evidence-based findings related to Canada. This approach raised questions about the originality and the relevance of the report in context. The broad and overreaching recommendations. The report final section spans 7 pages of broad recommendations on how the Government of Canada should address a variety of issues. However, without the necessary detailed analysis or a clear understanding of the Canadian context, these recommendations lack the specific and practicality needed to be fully actionable. They come across as overly ambitious and somewhat detached from the realities of implementing effective policy changes. Also, questionable methodology. The report does not clearly outline what methods were used to assess and analyze the issues covered. It is unclear what data was collected, who was engaged, or what research methods were employed. The lack of this transparency further diminishes the credibility of the findings and recommendations. Again, overgeneralization of complex issues. Attempting to address and making recommendations on a wide area of deeply complex and interrelated issues, from healthcare to legal frameworks to housing, within such a short period reflects an overgeneralization that fails to capture the unique aspects and challenges of each issue. This oversimplification does not do justice to the intricacies involved in addressing these societal challenges. In all, the report's attempt to cover an extensive range of issues and offers comprehensive recommendations after only a 2-week visit raises significant concerns about its validity and credibility. The unrealistic scope, lack of in-depth analysis, over-reliance on generalized information, broad recommendations, and questionable methods used to conduct the research all point to a superficial approach that fails to provide a meaningful assessment of Canada's policies and challenges. In essence, the report tried to do so much within so little time and resources, resulting in a document that may be more symbolic than substantive in the critics and suggestions. This approach not only risks oversimplifying complex issues, but also undermines the potential for real effective policy change in Canada. The importance of assessing and reviewing human rights issues, followed by making sound, actionable recommendations, cannot be overstated. Addressing these issues require a thorough and nuanced understanding of the current state of affairs, grounded in fresh data and specific analysis. This process is critical for developing effective strategies to promote and protect human rights. Unfortunately, in my opinion, the report falls short in this regard. Instead of providing a detailed, up-to-date assessment of the situation in Canada, the report largely relies on pre-existing data and generalized information. This approach is problematic for several reasons. A meaningful review of human rights issues should involve a deep, nuanced analysis tailored to the specific context of the country in question. The report's reliance on past data and generalized findings rather than conducting new, targeted research during the visit means that it fails to capture the current realities and complexities of the issues at hand. Effective recommendations must be based on thorough understanding of both the issues and the context in which they occur. The broad and often superficial recommendations in the report reflect a lack of detailed analysis and fail to address the specific challenges faced by marginalized groups in Canada. And as a result, the recommendations may not be practical or actionable, undermining their potential impact. The purpose of sending a special repertoire is to gain new insight and provide an updated assessment based on recent observations and data collection. The report's reliance on existing information rather than presenting new findings means that it misses an important opportunity to offer fresh perspectives and contribute meaningfully to the ongoing efforts to address human rights issues. Addressing human rights issues require careful and accurate assessment of the current situation. This includes understanding the specific needs and experiences of affected groups, evaluating the effectiveness of existing policies, and identifying gaps that need to be addressed. The failure to provide this level of detail in this report diminishes its value and effectiveness. In summary, the process of assessing human rights issues and formulating recommendations should be conducted with great care and attention to detail. Unfortunately, again, in my opinion, this report's reliance on past data and its broad generalized approach undermines its effectiveness. We did not need a report that reiterates existing information without offering new insight or detailed analysis. Instead, a rigorous context-specific review was necessary to provide actionable recommendations that could genuinely contribute to improving human rights conditions in Canada. Again, this is all for today. Thank you for watching. Till next time.